So, this individual, I met him. Um, we worked together in 2014. I met him. He got hired November of 2014. I was already working there like a few weeks before, prior to that. Um, we worked. I will say where we worked. I think that's okay. At the Disney store. Won't say the location though, but that's where we met. So at the moment, at the time, to me, that was like a very magical top place to meet a person, and just the fact that he had such an interest with in kids. He was a father himself. He was a single father actually, and had full custody of his child at the time. So that, like, just I fell head over heels. Like, that was what literally made me fall for him. When he asked me if it was okay that he had a child, I was like, I was more than okay with that. um Before him, I hadn't had uh I would say a real relationship. Like, I had just had two other relationships, but they were like high school relationships. I was young. um and he was my first real love. So I was in college at the time. And before him, I had probably like a good three years of not talking to nobody or in a relationship or anything like that. So I went from being single to being in my first real relationship, and basically playing a mommy role, which I was totally fine with. Because again, he did ask me. It's not like he just forced it on me or anything like that, or it's not like I pretended. Like, it was love at first sight with his kid as well. Like, I fell for him like he was my own child, and it was like that. It stayed like that up until the end of 2015, when his baby mom finally seen that me and him were together. She got a little spiteful and summoned him to custody. But at the time, that was me thinking that that was out of spite. I can't say that it is or it isn't, because at the end of the day, I don't know what she was going through as to why she just happened to summon him just a year into our relationship. But of course, at the time, it was me thinking like, oh yeah, she's probably spiteful, whatever. And him also conditioning me to think that because of the stories that he was telling me about her, before. So in my head, I already had like viewed her as like, a monster. And I just wasn't in the safe space myself at the time to meet somebody, to just be able to cordially like treat the situation that I was going through at the time. So the whole stress with the court case and everything came down on us. I eventually stopped going to school because I just wasn't finding like the want anymore to even go to class. When I was in class, I was constantly just thinking about him, and what how I can help him through this whole process. And even before the court case, I have to be honest, I was head over heels. Like, he was my first love, my first, like, almost everything. So I was just always thinking about him so much. I wasn't having the right mind to even like listen to my professors, to study, to do homework, to do good on a test. I just ended up withdrawing. um and like, times where he would ask me like, is there any way that you can, like, not go to class and come to the appointment today, because I need to take on this shift. And I would be like, go ahead, like, I get it, you need the money. um Eventually we stopped working at the Disney store, and he got me a job at a school. This was 2015 still, I think. No, 2016. I was unemployed for like a good year,
Oh,
almost a
wow.
year. So 2016, I got employed at a school. We were still in and out of court cases. The arguments started fairly on, like, I would say they started right before the court case. Like, the first argument, in reality, that topic just lasted until we broke up. Like, even till like this year lasted. Well, last year. Um, I was never the one to like expose myself on social media. I would never post pictures too revealing on social media, and I'm not judging anybody who does so. Like, that's your body, that's your profile. You do as you please. You're not supposed to be sexualized just because you're showing a little bit of skin. Like, no, I don't. I've never agreed with that. It's never been me because of my insecurities. And maybe
Right.
if I felt secured, I probably would have showed a little more, because I'm not gonna lie, times where I did feel very beautiful, I would show myself like in a bathing suit or something like that. But anyways, I have this picture with a black shirt, and you cannot see the color of my nipples, but you could tell that I did not have no bra on. And he would call me things like, oh, you're a hoe for that, you want attention, you're a pig, you nasty, whatever. Just because I had guys, just because I had men, like, like males on my Instagram following, he would assume that I had them all on my DMs, which I never did, because all these guys came from either school or mutual friends. And like I said, growing up, I'm a girl from the hood, and I honestly, like, I would be called, like, these teenage boys, like, they used to call me slacker, fronter, prude, because I was never one of the girls that was always out in parties or showing her body or texting guys or trying to link up for hookups. Like, I was never that person. So even if I tried to get that attention, it would never work. Like, even if I wanted to, even when I wanted to try to, because nobody ever found me appealing growing up, and like as a teenager, because I was just not one of those girls. And to be honest with you, that's what teenage boys want. They're horny. They're just horny boys. So I tried to tell him that, I'm like, listen, I'm really not that type of girl. And like I said, even if I tried to be that type of girl, I was not attractive to these guys, because it's the honest truth. And he was always like, no, you're a fucking liar, you're a liar, you fucked all of them, I bet you a hoe for that, like, why you got so much guys? And mind you, I didn't even have that much guys. I had the same amount of guys as I had girls. And because this argument was so traumatizing, I literally remember the amount of followers I had. I was following like 700 and something, and I probably had like 300 and something. I remember the numbers. And when he tried to argue about it, like recently, like years later, he tried to say that I had over a K. I never had over a K following. Like, I've never been that girl. I just never been that girl. And growing up, I'm not gonna lie, I used to have friends like that, and I used to be like, damn, like, what is it that you do that you get all this attention? Like, you got all these guys always hitting you up and following you. Like, yes, at some point I used to crave that attention, because I just thought that it was because I was ugly, But growing up, like, as I grew, I realized it's not because I was ugly. It's because I wasn't exposing the parts of myself that these guys wanted to see,
Right.
And yeah, so I told him, I was like, you're lying. Like, I've never had 1K following. Like, what are you talking about? And he'd be like, and even if I did, that should not be a problem. But of course, with him, is a problem. So I would have to sit there and try to defend myself over things that, even if I was guilty of them, it would really not be an issue. And he even tried to tell me one time, like, oh, well, you do know that if you was talking to anybody while you were trying to get to know me, that's considered cheating, right? I was like, first of all, no, it's not. But second of all, I was not talking to anybody. What are you talking about? Because the thing about me, like, I like felt for him. I don't know how to explain it. Like, okay, so I feel like I fell for him way like quicker and harder, because it was like literally love at first sight. Like, I felt like as soon as I saw this guy, I was like, oh my God, like, he's amazing. Like, he just looks amazing, and he's like, I can see the way he interacts with kids. I've always had a thing where I just love men who are good with children.
Right.
And with him, he was too quick with the flirtatious text messaging. Like, I feel like with him, it was first sexual, and then he actually probably fell in love with me, because like, off the bat, like, as soon as we texted, it must have not even been a week, and he was saying things like vulgar things about my body and how the things that he wanted to do and things like that. And I always felt like those were too soon. But because I was so into this guy at the moment, I was like, oh yeah, okay, like, sure, I'm entertaining this energy. But looking back, I'm like, yeah, no, that was a little bit too soon for that. And then, okay, so fast forward, I ended up breaking up with him in 2017 on our anniversary night, because the night before, me and him were having a conversation. This guy, we would argue about the slightest little things. Like, I remember one time we argued about Swiss cheese. I kid you not. This guy called me toxic and said that he couldn't do it anymore, because I literally told him that I wanted a Swiss cheese sandwich. And because he had asked me one time, like, we would always argue, like, have little disputes about what we want to eat. And every time he would ask me, I would always be like, I don't know. So he would always be like, oh, you never know what you want to eat. Little disputes, nothing too serious. And then this one time I was like, I'll have a Swiss sandwich. And he was like, oh, but you don't even like Swiss cheese because you always talking shit about Swiss cheese. And I'm like, yeah, but I just thought I happened to want a Swiss cheese sandwich. Like, And then he was like, oh, this is why I can't be with you, because you're a liar, you're toxic, I can't trust you because somebody who's like, you're like, that was too much of a code switch for somebody who's talking like about cheese. So, oh my god, this was just the last straw for me this night. He was telling me how his mom was in a bad mood because the day right before New Year's Eve, her ceiling in her bathroom fell. So I was like, if this was through text, I was like, oh my god, I'm so sorry to hear that. She must be hysterical. But the word hysterical doesn't just mean somebody laughing. Like, it can also mean hysterically crying, hysterically agitated. But he was a little illiterate, so he thought that I said that I meant that I was like laughing at his mom for what she was going through. And I was like, what? I was like, listen, this is not even about the fact that I'm just over the fact that we really just have bad, serious arguments over the slightest things. It's the fact that I've dated you for 2 years and you don't even know me well enough to know that I would never have the heart to laugh at somebody who's going through something unfortunate. So you know what? I'm over it. And he was always used to me saying that, but me not actually leaving. So he would always tease it. Like, once he would say that, like, we would have arguments, and he would always bully me a lot. He would know my flaws and my insecurities, and we would always have arguments about him calling me a hoe for he was a very insecure man. So anytime that I would like go out with family, he never liked my mom and my brother. So every time I would go to my brother's house over here in Long Island, or I would hang out with my friends at their house, like, I would never do nothing crazy. I'm not a clubber, I'm not a lounger, none of that stuff. But he would always just pick arguments. Like, he wouldn't accuse me of doing anything, but he would just randomly just pick an argument on the days that I would always go out. So I used to be like, it seems like you're having an issue when I go out, because I just feel like there's always a code switch whenever I tell you, hey babe, I'm about to go out with my best friend, or go to my brother's house. And eventually the conversation would lead to, oh no, because you had all these guys on your Instagram and you're an attention seeker because of that one picture you had on your Instagram that showed your nipples and this and that, and I can't be with a woman like that. I don't even know what you're doing. Like, he would always he asked for my passwords. I had to give him my passwords in 2015. Like, I literally could not say no. He changed the way I dress, and like I said, I've never dressed too revealing. I'm just a girl who has a small bra size, so I sometimes just don't want to wear a bra, but I he would bully me. Like, I always had back acne. Not so much anymore, but back in the days I did. And he would be like, oh, you pig, you nasty, no man is ever gonna love you the way I love you. You're ugly, nobody finds you beautiful, only I find you beautiful. I could connect the dots in your back, you stupid bitch. Like, stuff like that he would tell me. And it would, like, during arguments, he would always just like name call me a lot. And these arguments would always be like, I'm not gonna lie, I'm not trying to make myself seem like I'm on a pedestal. I came with a lot of toxicity because of my childhood traumas and the way I perceived the life. Like, I would just feel attacked easily because of the bullying I was already encountering at home. Like, the biggest I've been has been 180, and I've been 5'4" since I was like 15. So just 180 at 5'4" to my family was a little bit too big. So my mom was always calling me a cow, and ugly, and ballena means a whale in Spanish. So I already came with that oppression, basically, and that was not his fault. I take complete accountability for that. But I must say, he definitely didn't make it any easier for somebody who came into a relationship with such a conditioned mindset, basically. And at the time, I was already extremely extra insecure because of Instagram, like all these beauty standards on Instagram and all these, Instagram famous girls that you would see with this makeup and all these nice bodies and stuff. So it's like, to have an argument with your boyfriend and for him to tell you, to remind you every single time that, I can get any woman I want. Like, he would always tell me, like, you're beautiful, I'm obsessed with you. But he was too quick to bash it during arguments. So I would always feel like he would always just sexualize my body whenever he wanted to have sex. But in reality, I felt like he never really felt the way he said about my body, because during arguments, he would be too quick to bring it up. And then when I would tell him, like, I'm done, I can't do this, you're driving me away, like, it's fucked up, he would be like, oh, baby, I love you, stop. It's petty talk. It's petty talk. When you're mad, you just say things and you don't mean it. You say things to me too. And I'm like, yeah, but I never actually bully you like this. Like, I would just say things to him like, oh, you're a dick, you're a monster, like fuck you for that, like you're not even what I thought you was, like you've lied to me, this is who you are, like oh my god, like stuff like that, never actually bullying him though. Like the one thing I did tell him, and this came from my parents' toxicity. um I have a narcissistic mom and a helicopter father. So, like growing up, my parents, they're Hispanic. They're really big. Like Hispanics have this thing where they're very big on image. And I feel like it's very messed up. I feel like it almost feels like with my family, basically, like it almost feels like if I was to, bring a man who looks amazing and has a good status, it's okay for him to put hands on me. But I know that's not the case. Like if I was to tell my family somebody's putting hands on me, they'd go wild. But it almost feels like they're so focused on what, like in like somebody's looks and their status, that it had me thinking my dad won't like you because you have long hair. Like, you know what I mean? Like my dad already has issues with the culture he comes from. He comes from Puerto Rico. My dad is a Cuban man, and I don't know what is it with Cubans and Puerto Ricans. They've always had this feud, the same way Puerto Ricans and Dominicans have had.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you know what I mean? So, like, he already had that Puerto Rican image to him. And I just was so nervous to bring him to my dad because my dad is so territorial. And my mom was already like, you can't bring that guy to your dad. Tattoos, long hair, and he's like a little rock star boy. Your dad ain't gonna like that. And it's very messed up. But at the time, I was like, babe, maybe, I'm not going to tell you to cut your hair off for my dad, but just try to have it in a bun or something, look presentable. This guy never even met my father, but forget it. Anyway, so when I broke up with him, he kept sending me emails for months and months, and I just kept ignoring them. I felt very disconnected, very quick, and it almost made me question if I loved him and his kid. But I did. I definitely had love. Like I would have gone to the core of the earth for these two guys, for these two boys. Like they were my boys, and he made me feel like I didn't. He made me feel like I left him. Like he victimized himself because I did get back with him in 2018. It was very weird. We had no contact at all. I never saw him, and we lived fairly close to each other. Never had no contact. I used to have random private calls, and one morning I woke up. By this time, he had already lost the case, shared custody, but he only had him for summers and holidays, and I didn't know this. So because it happened after I broke up with him in 2017, and then when I got a phone call randomly one morning from his son's school in Texas, I was like, how the hell they have my number over there, whatever. So I'm telling the people at the school, like, I don't have no contact with his father at all. I don't even know how you guys have my number, but I'll try to find a way to reach him. So I had to go through my followers, and I still had his best friend's ex-baby mom's profile on because she was a makeup influencer. So I just never felt the need to delete her or block her. I had blocked everybody and deleted everybody from his circle though. So through her followers, I found his best friend. I gave him the message, whatever. His best friend then asked me what happened between y'all. Like, you just disappeared out of nowhere for 2 years. And I'm like, yeah, your best friend has issues. I don't know what to tell you. Like, I'm not going to get into it because he's not here to defend his side of the story. But I gave him a little summary, and he was like, I'm so sorry you guys went through that. Like, I can tell you from being with him very much more often now, like that he's changed. Like, would you mind having a conversation with him? Because this guy still talks about you to this day.